What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Now, things are heating up as the Royal Rumble is just less than 3 weeks away. But what shocks and surprises should fans expect on last night's edition of Raw? Well, join us now as we look at this week's edition of Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Raw crowd at its absolute lowest, a title versus title match at Mania is happening, Vince McMahon gives up on an ex-champion, John Cena is still not ready, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Austin's awesome push. A major props to the WWE for giving Austin Theory a strong push on Raw. While the WWE is often and deservedly criticized for its failure to build new stars, it's clear that Vince McMahon is big on Austin Theory, and why not? He has the youth, ability, and a good blend of charisma and arrogance to make him an effective heel, similar to Happy Corbin. There's no telling how long the WWE will stay behind Theory, but so far he's had a good push and is giving it all every week, whether it's in the ring or as promos. The only downside to this is Theory's dominance over Finn Balor, an issue which definitely belongs in the bad. Number 2, Randy living his best life on Raw. Randy Orton seems to be living his best life on Raw right now, quite the feat when you consider what year he had in 2020 as his revived legend killer character. Orton has managed to participate in comedy angles with Riddle while maintaining his kick-ass character, quite the feat considering the WWE writing team's inability to book nuanced storylines. Last night's segment where RK Bro ruined Alpha Academy's graduation ceremony was the latest instance of Orton and Riddle's chemistry. Orton's ability to tolerate Riddle's knucklehead antics every week is amusing, but more importantly, it's like watching a fuse burn as the WWE Universe knows it's only a matter of time before Orton explodes and hits an RKO out of nowhere on Riddle. Number 3, 8-man tag was kinda hype. Last night's 8-man tag match was hype as it showcased 4 of the WWE's tag teams, at least until the Mysterio split up, while also building things up for the Royal Rumble match. The match was action-packed with many high spots and double team maneuvers for tag team wrestling fans. Having Dominic throw the Street Profits over the top rope to show he's ready for every man himself, then having Papa Ray deposit him over the top rope was a reminder that Dom still has a lot to learn. While it's disappointing to see Apollo Crews and Aziz stuck in the tag team division as an afterthought, it's better than an extended run on main event, isn't it? Number 4, building Bobby back up. It's good to see the WWE building Bobby Lashley back up as the Almighty and not just another musclehead heel. Although it's inaccurate to say the WWE has jobbed Lashley out, they haven't protected him well following his championship loss to Big E. The WWE had him taking too many pins and rumored a dream match between Roman Reigns by having Roman pop up on Raw to defeat him in an impromptu match. Lashley is a blue chip talent who should be protected at all times, and that's what the WWE did last night, wisely ending his match with Seth Rollins on a DQ finish due to the interference from Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. The DQ finishes should be avoided, but in this case, the ending made sense as both Rollins and Lashley had to be protected going into their Royal Rumble title matches. Furthermore, the post-match segment allowed Lashley to destroy his former Hurt Business teammates, making him look like the badass he is. Number 5, making the mixed match magical. Now, last night's segment between 2 of the WWE's power couples was well done as Miz and Maurice got the upper hand on their Royal Rumble opponents Phoenix and Edge. As predictable as the booking has been, it's been a fun ride thanks to all 4 wrestlers' work. But while fans know they can expect Maurice's birthday celebrations to go sideways, they're still going to tune in to see just how Edge and the Glamazon dish out some revenge for this week's attack. But that was a good what about the bad as number 1, Alexa's silly psychotherapy. Now, last night's latest counseling session for Alexa Bliss was the latest example of WWE's confusion on how to book Alexa Bliss. Fans watching the therapy sessions with Alexa Bliss and Dr. Frankenputz just have to wonder just what the WWE's endgame for Bliss actually is. Are they trying to go with the idea that Lily was imaginary, despite the fact fans saw her numerous times on Raw? Does Bliss still possess arcane abilities she is hiding in order to return to the WWE? There's nothing in the segments to build a storyline from which she creates a baffling situation for fans trying to deduce the narrative driving Alexa Bliss's supposed story arc. Number 2, downplaying Damian's loss. Why didn't the WWE actually make a big deal out of Damian Priest's loss to Kevin Owens? After all, the current US champion hasn't lost by pin or submission in singles matches since he debuted on Raw. But while Priest has lost in tag matches and handicap matches, his streak should have been mentioned as it not only helps distinguish him as a rising star, but it makes KO's win mean even more. While win-loss records are often overlooked in WWE, this winning streak could have been played up, and it's another sign that WWE isn't paying attention to the details. Big surprise there. Number 3, Veer is still coming. Again, we're wondering what's going to come first, GTA 6 or Veer debuts on Raw. Number 3, Finn loses to Austin Theory. Now, Austin Theory's push is a good thing, but does it have to be at the expense of Finn Balor? Well, the WWE made a serious booking error by throwing Balor against Theory without building Balor up on Raw, which makes Theory's win over Balor less impressive and it makes Balor look washed up. At this point, there's nowhere for Balor to go but down, and Balor's booking will confirm fans' suspicion that his time on NXT was a sign he couldn't hang with the main roster stars. Well, there's actually a little bit more to it, which we explain in the news. Number 5, can they coexist? Who cares? Can these women coexist on the same team? How many times have fans heard this one in the last year as rivals self-destruct while battling another team that are also on shaky ground? The women's division has become so monotonous as big-time Bex mocks her opponents every week, then squashes them in the ring to prove they're nothing but rubbish. It takes a certain level of skill to mismanage such a talented group of women, and in that respect, Raw's writers continue to outdo themselves every week. Unfortunately, the WWE's policy of feathering more women's matches and promos will continue to weaken the division as long as the banal booking continues. And lastly, Monday Night Promo. Last night's Raw had way too many promos, something evident when you consider the Red Brand only had 2 matches in its first hour. Granted, some of the promos were actually well done, including Damian Priest asking Edge for advice about the Rumble, but there were just too many. Every wrestling show needs promos to build up matches and advance storylines, but no promos should be used as mere filler, which was definitely the case last night. There was nothing downright ugly about the show, as Raw had some excellent matches and promos that made up for the low points, such as most of the women's segments. The WWE is clearly building up the Rumble and giving fans plenty of reasons to tune in. It wasn't a consistent 3-hour show, but the high points balanced out the low, making this an above-average Raw. What did you guys think of it? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at Raw's crowd being one of the lowest. Our top in the news today is the report that this week's Raw nearly broke the record for the worst ticket sales for the Red Brand since the pandemic began. Meltzer discussed the ticket troubles during the recent Wrestling Observer Radio, saying this was the smallest crowd for Raw, second smallest crowd I believe since the pandemic. There were just a little over 3,000 paid, so that's pretty brutal. I think the only one that was lower was the San Francisco one. Meltzer did note, however, they had less people than AEW had for Rally for Wednesday and Friday's show, but WWE looked better. They'll go in there with 4,000 people in a building and they know how to set it up and everything to where it looked fine on television. It wasn't even dark or anything. The WWE's world-class production team can make anything short of an empty arena look good. These ticket sales are kinda concerning. Next up, an update on the title versus title match at Mania. There was a rumored WrestleMania match between Lesnar and Reigns going to be a title versus title match. The possibility currently exists as Lesnar is WWE Champion while Roman is Universal Champion. However, Meltzer is unsure about this as he claimed the original plans were not for both belts to be on the line. I was told no, they just did it because those two guys had the belt at the time, so it makes sense at the time, but at the time that was not the direction they were planning on. Meltzer mused further on what might happen at Mania. Lesnar and Reigns are going to have a match. I think we'll have a lot better idea of what's going to happen after the Rumble, but if Seth wins and then Lesnar's wrestling Roman, I would presume Roman beats him to win a belt back, because Lesnar's not going to be around long term and Roman will be around every week. What do you think will exit the Royal Rumble as a champion and WWE champion and Universal champion? Next up, Vince McMahon gives up on an ex-champion. Now, if you're wondering why Theory got the win over ex-Universal and NXT champion Finn Balor last night, well, it's because that Vince has actually given up on the Irish Star. According to WrestlingNews.co, his push is kinda done. Yeah, Finn was moved into that spot that Jeff Hardy had. He's just there now to help over the younger guys. It was a pitch to make him heel, but that was weeks ago and I haven't heard much about it since. Vince never saw Finn as more than just a mid-card guy. Heyman would have pushed him to the moon, but Vince just never saw it. Austin Theory is going to get time to shine in the Rumble match. Last I heard, he will be in the Final 4 or Final 5 at the end of the match. Now, is it just a matter of time before Finn hands in his release request too? The guy deserves so much better. Next up, AEW Star Injured. Wrestling's injured reserve list continues to grow as the current AEW star Eddie Kingston is reportedly dealing with an injury. WrestleTalk reported, Tony Khan made the injury announcement during this past weekend's AEW Dark taping but did not specify what the injury was. Dave Meltzer is reporting it's a fractured orbital bone. Kingston, who will be likely out of action for around 3 more weeks, last wrestled on January 8th against Joey Janela in a pre-tape match for AEW Dark. It isn't clear whether this is when the injury occurred. We send our best to Kingston for a fast and full recovery. And finally, John Cena not ready. And last but not least, it appears that John Cena is still uncertain about the prospects of becoming a father. The 16-time world champion shared his thoughts on being a dad during a recent appearance on Drew Barrymore's talk show. This is just my perspective, totally not qualified, but I think just because you might be good at something, for me, it's not a strong enough reason to do that. If you have a passion for it, you have to have fuel for it. Cena talked about what he is passionate about, acting, and for now that seems to be his main focus in life. So good luck to him. But there you have it folks, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including this week's Raw. Be sure to leave your comments down below and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.